Hey everybody, how are you? It's Christina Quick, the Tarot Biz Mentor, here from the Profitable Psychic Business and Divination Academy. Let me make sure that we are in the right place. How was your guys' week? I put up a post on Monday and asked you guys to set between 1 and 3 goals for the week. So I'm curious, how did you guys follow through on that? How did that go for you? Hey Abra, good to see you. Thanks for joining me. Okay, so today we are going to be talking about something very specific. We're going to be talking about the healer archetype and the Discover Your Soul's Calling quiz that I have. It's in the unit section of the group. If you don't have it, let me get you the link. If you're not quite sure what that is or what we're talking about today, if you look in the description box, if you're watching this as a replay, if you look in the description box below, or if you are watching this on Facebook, if you look in the pinned comments or even in the description box of the video, you will see a link. And this link will take you to my free introductory quiz. It's called Discover Your Soul's Calling Through Your Spiritual Life Coaching, and it is a quiz to help you understand what your archetype is, okay? So you'll get that quiz. It's a 5-question quiz. You go through that, and then you'll tally up your results, and you'll find out if you're one of 4 different types of archetypes, or you might even be a combination of those. And you'll also get a free course, introductory course. There's a couple videos in there, and that's really to kind of help you with some tips, tricks, suggestions, some things to kind of think about as you make the shift from trusted tarot reader to spiritual life coach. So I'm going to drop this in the comments below really quickly for you guys. Hey, Ibu, good to see you. Jenna, hi, beautiful. Thank you, darling. Okay, so there it is right there. Hi Freya, thank you. If you haven't taken this quiz, please go take it, because I am working on something brand new for you guys, and I'm really working with archetypes this year. And I have learned so much over the past 7 years that I've been a spiritual coach, a psychic reader. I've learned so much about archetypes, but I've also learned so much, like many of you probably remember my Discover Your Psychic Superpowers. Like I talked about some archetypes in there as well, but I really want to start using them a lot more. And I think it's helpful because I think when you can understand your archetype, you can understand like what are your specific blocks, which is really important. That's something we're going to talk about today. We're also going to be talking about your specific path to 6 and 7 figures. Yes. So we're going to be talking about how to actually get to 6 and 7 figures based on your specific archetype and where you are in your spiritual business. Thanks so much. Hi, Randisha. Good to see you. Hi, Ibu. Ibu says she's a warrior healer hybrid. Awesome. Probably more healer some days and more warrior some days. And, yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how it is. And you will find that certain situations call for you to be one thing, certain situations call for you to be another thing. And you will also find in most cases that whatever your mixture, whatever your unique hybrid is of your archetypes according to the system that I'm creating, you will find that in most cases that if you belong to 2 or 3, you will find that they kind of actually balance each other out as we go through these videos and go through these trainings. Today we're going to be talking about the healer specifically. So if you have any healer answers at all, there's 5 questions. If you answered A on any of those questions, you have some healer within you. Hey Mario, hey Kristen, good to see you. Good morning, good morning. Okay, so grab that quiz, take it, and let us know. There's actually a thread you can actually tell me on this video if you want, or there's a thread in the unit section of my group. It's called The Profitable Psychic. There's a link down in the description box below to join if you're watching this on YouTube or my Facebook business page. And there's a specific place where everybody comes and they share their specific archetypes. So you can get to know if other people have a similar one as you, which is cool because then you can make friends and you can sync up and network with other people that have a similar archetype as you. All right. So before we get started, so we know Ibu is a healer. Do we have any more healers present today on today's training? Are there any other healers? Mario, you probably have some healer in you, though I don't know because you're kind of changing things right now. So you may actually be leaving some of that behind. But when I first met you, you were definitely, in my opinion, healer. You had some healer archetype in there. So does anybody have any healer archetype? Let me know. All right. So with the healer archetype, your main gift is the gift of restoration. So if you answered A's on any of the questions in the quiz, then you have some type of healer within you. And healers are probably the most highly sensitive of all of the types of light workers that there are. Healers typically identify as being highly sensitive, or they identify as being empathic, right? You are a healer, Freya? Okay, Freya, cool. You're a healer. Chelly's a healer. Mario, I do, but do it second fiddle to the other two. Gotcha. Gotcha. Hi, Leonie. Good to see you. Yes, I made it. And yes, I do loads of healing. Awesome. Great. So as a healer, you have the unique ability. This is like your superpower is being able to hold sacred space for people. And this is typically holding sacred space for people when they are in their most troubling or difficult times or situations in their lives, okay? So, as a healer, you are absolutely one of the most giving, one of the most nurturing and compassionate types of light workers that there are. Now, also, the healers tend to be one of the most resilient type of light workers. And what I mean by that is, so as a healer, it's like, it seems like a lot of the time in your coaching practice with your coaching clients, and even in the coaching space that you uphold, whether that's your groups or your group programs or whatever it is, if you have a space that's dedicated, whether that's one-on-one on the phone or video with someone, or that's in a group space, your superpower is holding space for people, right? And holding a healing type of space for people. But when you are working with clients and when you're holding space for those people, most of the time, the people that you're going to be working with or the situations that you're going to be working with are people that are in pain, that are dealing with some type of illness, condition, or disease. Someone who is dealing with burnout or even stress or anxiety. And a lot of those, what we call lower vibrational kind of feelings, right? We consider them to be the bad types of feelings, right? So that's what the healer is really like. That's where you were really, really in your element with, is people that are dealing with some of the most intense things that they have ever probably gone through. Yeah. Freya says, I've gone through some changes with other archetypes, but I always come back to healer too. Interesting. Yeah, interesting to see how, especially if you take these quizzes, this quiz specifically, and you go through it, and then maybe you're not the same as you were a year after, or maybe, you go through something kind of big and important, a major shift in your own life, and you take the quiz and you come up to be something different. And it's interesting because that quiz will tell you what it is that you need to be or what that you need to embody to get the results that you're trying to get for people. And that's why I really love this quiz and why I want everybody to take it, because it's so, so helpful in that. So basically, healers, when you are in chaos, when there's absolute chaos going on in other people's lives, right? This is where you feel the most helpful and in your element. So a lot of your energy as a spiritual life coach has to do with creating and maintaining these stress-free environments, right? And so in a way, it's kind of like you and your energy you're like an oasis, right? An oasis or an escape away from the stress of the outside world. Now, that doesn't mean that your coaching client situations or, things that they're going through don't bother you, right? It doesn't mean that you're not bothered, and it doesn't mean that you're made of steel either. It doesn't mean that you're unfeeling or that you can't be influenced by that at all. Especially, our healers, they tend to be like our nurses, people that are in triage or in the ER, or the people that are there to kind of comfort and nurture people through difficult situations. Now, like I said, it doesn't mean that that doesn't bother you. It doesn't mean that you don't also share some of those same fears. It doesn't mean that you also don't go through some of the same situations or have some of the same reactions or responses to these situations. That's more of the warrior archetype. The warrior archetype is the one that kind of shuts down and just goes into superhero mode and just does what they need to do, right? It's also the warrior is also the one that doesn't really get triggered by a lot of things, that they've kind of learned how to detach and create some sort of dissonance for themselves so that they can be what they need to be in that moment. They can be that made of steel, kind of like Superman made of steel, right? Now, with the healer, it's not like you're made of steel. It's more like you're bamboo, right? So bamboo is incredibly flexible and it's resistant to like cracking and chipping, and bamboo just kind of bends, right? So if there's pressure on bamboo, the bamboo just kind of bends until it can go back to its original state. Now, when bamboo dries out, that's when it becomes a problem. So when bamboo dries out, that's when it starts to crack and it becomes extremely, extremely brittle. And so when when people are making like furniture or building houses out of bamboo, you make it out of bamboo while it's still somewhat like wet and pliable, because when it dries, it will dry in a very rigid sort of way. And so it's a very strong type of element or substance type of thing when when it's already set in its place, right? And so what that means is that as long as you take care of yourself, and as long as you provide yourself and with your own type of oasis, or use your own healing modalities on yourself, that you will be fine. You'll be able to bounce back. And that's what the strength of the healer is that yes, you might go through these difficult situations, but you have the ability to bounce back. You're someone that, you feel it and you feel the intensity of it, but then you go to work on yourself and you bounce yourself back and you bring your energy back. You align your energy, you balance it, whatever it is that you need to do for that. And what it does is what it means is that you have the tools and you have the capabilities to bounce back quickly because you are so in tune with energy, period. You just, as a healer, healers really speak the language of energy. Like all of the archetypes are really good at understanding energy. The mystic is excellent at manipulating energy, at recognizing where there's imbalances and creating balance. That's what the mystic does. The shaman is more of a transmuter of energy. So the shaman looks at negative energies and knows exactly how to transmute it into light energies. The warrior is more like about summoning energy and creating energy and creating momentum where there might be none, or self-generating energy. Healers are more, you feel the energy, but also you talk the language of energy, right? Like you can see energy, you can perceive energy all throughout your different psychic abilities that you have. And so what that means is, because sometimes it feels like you're in the ocean, for the healer, a lot of ways it kind of feels like you are in the ocean and you're just like being whipped around by the tides, and whatever direction the tides want to go, that's the direction you go. And that's what I mean about being like highly sensitive. Do you guys resonate with that at all? Does that make sense? Leonie says that's really true. Yeah. Mario says, now that you're talking about this, I'm wondering if the difficulty in the expression of my business may be how I am handling my soul's calling. Because what you describe is me, but there is so much shaman and mystic. I am wondering if there is an imbalance here that I am not seeing. And yeah, we're going to talk about like what are some of the blocks and things like that. So it may very well be, Mario. Truth. I had difficulty answering the questions because I would do all of them depending on the situation and how I am called. That's very true as well. Obi said, Obi. That was like Ibu Oni together in one word. Ibu. What is interesting is that I was mostly in warrior mode for a long time, and I have been morphing more into healer in the past couple of years. And when speaking with my tarot, I feel that I am moving on from the Queen of Swords to the Queen of Cups. I'm finally starting to embrace my inner healer. That's lovely. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, Marissa. Freya says, I need to retake the quiz. I'm going to do that this afternoon. Awesome. Marissa, yes, you need to take the quiz. Marissa says, interesting idea about the warrior as the summoner. I haven't encountered that idea before. Oh, well, Marissa, it kind of comes from the concept of yoga and also like Qigong or the idea of prana, right? Or the idea of being able to channel and generate prana. I always think of the warrior as the 1 inch punch, right? I think it was Bruce Lee that did that, but he was able to generate so much force that he was able to knock someone down within being 1 inch away from their body through a 1 inch punch. So when I think of the warrior, that's kind of what I feel like. I feel like, the warrior is kind of like that summoner that is able to channel the energy into one compact little space and then release it in a big output of energy. Yeah, good. It makes sense. Great. Hey, Roxy. Good to see you. Marissa says shamans have to renew their power or have protection rituals, or they need to go into healer mode, I think. And I agree with that. Absolutely. Lynn says, my quiz was mostly healer, as I recall. Great. So we're talking about healer today. So in a nutshell, healers are one of the most compassionate archetypes. They're one of the most nurturing types of people. They are the helpers, right? They're someone who is always available and dependable to count on within boundaries, right? And as a healer, you prefer to comfort your coaching clients in gentle ways, and you try your best to remind them that their struggle is like only temporary, right? And that the healer really comes to sit side by side with their clients and says, hey, we are going to get through this together, right? So that's the healer kind of in a nutshell. Now, when I have worked with healers, and I've worked with many, many healers over the past 7 years, what I've found is that there are certain modalities or certain types of spiritual paths that many healers kind of go down, and it seems to be sort of like repeating patterns, right? So I want to talk about that for a little bit. I want to talk about, like, if you're listening to this right now and you're just now really understanding who you are as a healer and you resonate with being a healer and you're like, okay, now what? So now I know what I am. So now what? How can I actually help people? There are some specific modalities that I've found that seems to be pretty common and pretty average across the board that most healers are interested in. First and foremost is energy healing. Now that could be Reiki. It could be Munakai. It could be the angelic type of healing. So any type of like energetic transference type of healing is what the healers are really, really great at. They're also really good at doing aura readings. So if you're a healer, you see, speak, feel energy, right? And so you are typically able to really do great aura readings and be able to do bioscans. And there's some words that I might be throwing around that you're not really sure of. You could Google those and kind of see what I mean by that. I'll try to explain as I go in a very simple term, but again, a lot of these modalities are very vast, and they can comprise of a lot of different information or techniques or methodologies, right? So whenever I think of someone who does aura readings, and I always think back to when I did Reiki, and I think back to when I would do like bioscans. Like some people, they will take like a pendulum and they'll do like a pendulum and they'll do it over a certain, they'll take their pendulum like this, and they'll go over like certain aspects of certain parts of your body, and they'll see, and then they'll program their pendulum to tell them certain things about, like, if it spins this way, it means you have a blockage, or if it's spinning like this, then it means this, etc. That's one way you could do it. But another way you could do it is through your third eye chakra and through your third eye, your intuition, basically, your clairvoyance or your ability to remote view. And sometimes I've also done courses and classes on this too, where I've taught people how to do aura scans, where you are seeing the colors of the aura, you're seeing if there's any dark spots in the aura, you're seeing if there's any blockages, you're seeing where some of the chakras aren't really that brilliant, where maybe they need a little bit more healing or activation, that sort of thing. But most healers I know use some sort of healing modality, like Reiki or angelic healing, or they do aura reading, something along those lines. And then they direct that universal healing energy to heal certain parts of people. whether that's, physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, like all of those different etheric, kind of etheric layers of our spiritual, our light body is what we call it. Along with Reiki, I also see a lot of my healers, especially as I see them a lot in like the spa industry. And so that's where I have a really good in with healers because I was part of that industry for a really long time. So I absolutely understand it a lot. And a lot of them are like massage therapists, or they work, or they're estheticians, or they're hairdressers or something like that, where there's like this hands-on kind of healing energy that happens. Or I've even worked with healers that were like aromatherapists that sign up for the MLM type of business where they're selling like essential oils like doTERRA or Young Living, something along those lines. I've also known a lot of healers that were crystal healers. They were really into crystals. They used crystals for a lot of different things. Um, I've also known a lot of healers that are channelers that are really, really good at channeling. Channeling is a type of medium, a type of method in which you can receive psychic information. It's usually through clairaudience, but it can also be through claircognizance, which is through the crown chakra, as or claircognizance. It can be clairsentience through feeling as well, but mostly claircognizance and clairaudience, right? So that throat chakra, everywhere in throat chakra, third eye chakra, and crown chakra, that tends to be the most highlighted. That tends to be the most activated part, whereas the warrior is more like the solar plexus and the heart chakra. And we'll get to that. We'll get to the other archetypes as we go on in this series. But I've also seen like the channelers are really good at usually channeling like spirit guides. So if you're a psychic reader who really likes doing spirit guide readings, you probably have some bit of healer in you. Or if you are a healer or a psychic reader that likes to do angelic type of channeling, or even Council of Light extraterrestrial kind of channeling, talking to aliens or other high vibrational beings, even talking to fae or land spirits, devas, things like that. Or even extended masters if you have a personal relationship with like Saint Germain or Jesus or any of the other sorts of like I can't think of off the top of my head right now, but as far as like the Buddha, the extended masters, the people that have reached the status level of being like a Buddha, the enlightened ones. And so the healer is a lot of your energy and a lot of your time is basically built around lifting the vibe of a space, like lifting the energy up, right? And creating like a sanctuary of positive feelings. How many of our healers here actually do any of those things? Hey, Pamela, good to see you. She says, I'm definitely a healer. Yes, you are for sure. Leonie says that she can relate. Pamela says she does bioscans and acupuncturists. Yes, so Lynn. So acupuncturists, massage therapists, people who do physical therapy, anything Chinese herbal medicine, Chinese traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, anything kind of like that is a really good indication of being a healer. Shelly, you're on aromatherapy and herbalist. Okay, awesome. Excellent. Excellent. Yeah. So, so that's kind of like some of the things that you can kind of look into if you're a healer. That's definitely not the final list, and I'm sure you're going to have other interests as well. But basically, it all kind of comes back to lifting up the vibe, right? Like creating a sanctuary of positive sorts of feelings, right? Now, there are three main areas where the healer is blocked, and this is going to block you from 6 and 7 figure incomes. This is going to block you from even starting your business, right? So the main area that the healer is typically blocked in, now this isn't going to be like all the blocks, and it may not apply to you in the specific way that I'm presenting it, but it will probably apply to you in some way, shape, or form, and it'll be like topic specific. So let me give you an example. So the first one is psychic vampires, right? So healers are usually blocked by psychic vampires. They have blocks around psychic vampires, and they have blocks around being fixers, right? So healers are the people that are like the very stubborn fixers. They're the people that don't like to give up on anything. They like to see things out through to the very end. And the healers are like the people that think that they can heal everybody, right? And so one of the main ways that you are blocked as a healer is that you're not in a position of power of discernment about who you can and who you can't help, right? Also, as a healer, because you are a fixer, because you believe in the best of everybody, because you believe everybody has, everybody at the core has good intentions, is that you can attract people who have like this compulsion of surrounding themselves with people who are fixers. So there can be some serious codependency issues with healers, and the way to get around that block is to severely straddle up on your boundaries and make sure that you know who you can help, who you can't help. Make sure you understand the signs of codependent relationships and make sure you aren't fostering those relationships, because the biggest block that the healer has, in my opinion, is that they would rather fix someone than, because that's more of an immediate type of so, okay, if we think about healers and we think about energy, we think about vampires and we think about, psychic vampires, but we also think about the healers. Healers by nature are usually very introverted. They're usually people that get energy by helping people. So they are people that people that, so if they fix someone, they get this rush. They get like this adrenaline rush. They get that validation, right? And they get that good, cozy, good feeling within them. So that can be actually addicting for healers. And where the healer needs to learn to take a step back is playing the long game, right? So there are some situations where people will come to you as a coaching client or a reading client or a healing client where they will need an immediate fix. Like, for example, if you're doing Reiki or something like that. Now, when it comes to helping people change behaviors and establish good, positive, like habits over time, this is where the healer really needs to practice a level of self-restraint, because they get so into the mode of fixing things for other people that they don't allow people to learn how to fix their own problems. It's like if you have kids and they're 12 and 13 years old and they still don't know how to do the laundry. They still don't know how to make their own food. They still don't get themselves up, get themselves dressed for school every day, right? That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's one situation where, like, we have to understand as healers, where is it appropriate that I can help someone fix this? Or is it appropriate that I can help them learn how to fix it themselves? And that's where we have this, we can create unintentional psychic vampire clients. So yes, there are people out there who are psychic vampires who have no intention of fixing themselves and just want people to surround themselves with other people who can fix them. It's because they have no self-esteem. They don't feel like they have any type of personal power, that they can have it in their power to fix themselves. Or there's the unintentional psychic vampire, where clients become so dependent on you to get that energy fix that they're helpless and they don't know how to help themselves. Does that make sense? Is anybody resonating with this at all? Marissa says she does some chakra scans and diagnostic divinations. I do too. I love that. Roxy says, I'm definitely a healer. Archangel Michael is my BFF. I worked with Archangel Michael for a really long time too. Yeah. Mario says, I do these things, but right now, not for my business. Uh-oh, is this the imbalance? Ibu says, I do Reiki and also channeling, not commercially, though. Lynn says, I have done medical Qigong. I have also channeled during those sessions, but have to be cautious to whom. That's important. Yeah. Maria says, getting better about being a fixer. I had to learn that, too. Lynn says, oh, cripey. Yes, those vampires. I've had some bad experiences with that. Chelly says, I had to realize I need to stop fixing myself too. Yeah, because we can become overly dependent on fixing ourselves, and that really robs us of being in the present moment, doesn't it? Noni says, I love making aromatherapy products with crystals and energy and magical oils. I do too. Ivy says, this is so true. I spent years working on my codependency and learning to enforce boundaries. Yeah. Mario says, oh my God, boundaries again. Dang. Well, my New Year cards just won't get out of my face. I am listening. Chelly says, I try to discern whether someone wants to unload or actually wants advice. That's, Chelly, that is like, that's, $1 million piece of advice right there. Seriously. Because if you can learn how to do that, and sometimes it's simple, it's as simple as asking, okay, asking your client, is this something you just need to talk about, or is this something that you want to actively try to fix? And that helps us helps us with enforcing our boundaries, but it also helps others with enforcing their own boundaries. Yeah. Yeah. Marissa says everything costs something, including energy. This is what I am focused on this year. Protection and restoration practices needed to be up. That's exactly it. So the healer cannot forget about their own self-care. They cannot run around putting everybody else's fire out while they're on fire burning. Like, you can't do that because you will not be able to do it for very long. Pamela says, I have learned that they have to fix themselves. I'm here to guide them. Exactly. Ivy says, and as you were speaking, Jeff was making himself a tea, and I told him, let me make it for you. I'm the same way with my husband. I like to spoil him a little bit. Chelly says, yes, it's difficult to not jump into action. And that's key. It really is key for the healer, Chelly. I think you're onto something amazing here, because that is like, that's one of the most difficult things as a healer, is not to feel that compulsion to just jump in there and try to fix and make everything better. Sometimes that's not what people need, and that's not what you need all of the time. Pamela says it costs your health. Absolutely. It does. Anytime you do anything for anybody else, it's going to cost you something. Now, the other block, number 2, the second block that healers have is that they often think, now this is more like if you're just kind of starting your business and you haven't worked with a lot of people, okay? So this is the block that's keeping you from starting your business, is that you think you're too empathic and that you're going to constantly be absorbing other people's pain. And again, we're kind of coming full circle with this whole thing of costing you your health, because that's one of the biggest blocks that healers have, is that they tend to isolate themselves, because they know that they're wide open psychically. They know that they're empathic. They know they're highly sensitive, and they know that other people can kind of come in like freight trains and really screw up their sense of peace, right? And their energy and things like that. So a lot of empaths start out as being too open. They're too absorbent, right? And so they're kind of like a target, right? So when you're around other people, you're an empath, you kind of just absorb other things and you don't know what to do with it at that point. And that's where a lot of people get overwhelmed as healers and as empaths. So one of the best techniques I ever learned as an empath myself is to become porous instead of versus being absorbent. So most people think of being an empath as being absorbent, right? Now, when I think of being porous, what I do is, if I'm becoming overwhelmed, or there's a lot of things around me that is like really kind of chaotic and it's kind of starting to unbalance me, what I do is I close my eyes, take a couple deep breaths. That's always a good starting point for anybody, right? And I imagine my aura, my body becoming porous. And I imagine all that energy kind of flowing through me. So it flows through me and out the back, right? Because porous, think of pumice, right? Pumice has all of these little holes inside of it. It's a rock, it's solid, but it has all these little holes that the liquid can kind of pour out, so that if it becomes too burdened by the amount of energy or feelings, or water in this case, within the pumice stone, it can leak out, right? So don't forget to punch some holes in your aura so that the energy can kind of leak out when it becomes too much. And also, again, another thing with that is boundaries. You're the only person that's making yourself be that compulsive fixer and compulsive helper. It's called martyr syndrome, right? Or savior complex. I've talked about it in, I have a training called Become a Biz Boundary Baddie. That's a really, really good 5-day course. I talk about the martyr and the savior complex in that, and kind of how to overcome that. It's also a course that I talk a lot about how to recognize psychic vampires. So that's a really good place to start with that. But most of the time, healers are blocked in this area because they know their gifts are good. They know that what they do is amazing. They know that their coaching style is needed and also really, really valuable, but they go into hermit mode because they don't think they can handle the energy. And so it becomes a matter of, okay, how are you releasing that energy? So if you have all this energy around you and you feel like you have too much energy, and all the wrong types of energy, especially at the end of the day when you're dealing with people in difficult situations all day, right? So it becomes a matter of how are you releasing that energy, and that's how you're going to find and even strike a balance and start to become a little bit more brave and come out of your shell, right? So another way that healers block themselves from 6 and 7 figures is, Lynn says, I have isolated myself more and more over the past few years. So we got to stop that. We got to stop this isolation. Pamela says, like a freight train. First it gets you mentally and then emotionally right. Mario says, porous is great, like meditation. Hello, goodbye. There it goes. Right. And it just comes in and it just flows out. And that's kind of like going off of when I was really starting to first learn meditation through yoga. And one of my teachers taught me, let the thoughts come in and let them go out, just let it come in and go out and let it come in and go out and just notice it as it comes in and just notice it as it comes out. And that's more of like a warrior kind of technique. We're going to talk about that with the warrior, but still at the same time, I think it's really valuable. Pamela says, I've isolated myself, but that's part of my nature. Yeah, it can be difficult if it's part of your nature, if it's part of like your natal chart or it's part of your numerology, that sort of thing. Thank you. Pamela says, good example with pumice. Shelly says, sounds like I need to take that course. It's a good one. It's a really good one. Lynn says, hermit, that's me. Iva says, if it was not for my muggle job and my other business, I would totally isolate myself. And I can totally relate to that. So the third block that healers have is around charging. Yes. So healers are people that volunteer the most time. They're the ones that take the hopeless cases. You're the ones that adopt the animals that are unadoptable. You know what I mean? Like, you guys are the people that do the impossible. But at the same time, you also do it for free more often than not. And that is a problem because people will pay for healing. And so part of your dharma as a healer is understanding that who is meant to receive help from you and who is not. And the trap that most healers kind of fall into is that, people are attracted to you. Psychic vampires, again, are attracted to you. People who are going through difficult situations, that are poor, broke, don't have any money, are in hopeless kind of situations, right? And you feel bad, so you're doing all of these free healings and free Reiki and stuff like that, right? I know you guys are doing it. I see you guys doing it all the time. Now, where you are blocked is that you feel bad that you can't help someone because they can't afford it. And I don't want to sound cold or crass, but people who want something bad enough, who are motivated to get it, will find a way to receive it. That doesn't mean that what it means is that if you are someone who wants to be a healer as a profession, this is something that you want to make money doing. You have to figure out a way to strike a balance with that. And I'm going to give you some ideas a little bit later because I know that this is a big one for a lot of people. If people want something bad enough and if they're motivated enough to do it, they will do it for either themselves, meaning they don't require you. They can go online and learn Reiki. They can go online and learn about crystals. They can go online and learn about aromatherapy. Do not ever feel bad about not being able to service someone because they can't afford it. There is so much information, so much resources out there that people can learn how to do this for themselves if they really, really want it that bad. Okay. Another thing you can do is you can do what I'm going to suggest on your path to 6 figures. But if you're someone who is giving away healing all the time because you really want to, it tugs at your heartstrings, and I know it does. But I have a reality check for you. You are not the one, you are not their savior. Okay. You are not the person that their health and wellness is contingent upon. You're giving yourself way too much credit, way too much authority over that person's healing. Okay. So I hope that I'm not being too mean when I tell you guys this, but this is something that I have had to have a, discussion with many, many healers about. And after I present it this way, they're like, yeah, that's kind of true. Yeah, I can see where that's true, right? So this is something you're going to have to work on for yourself. And where it comes from is from this needing validation, right? And so again, that kind of circles back and loops back around to this whole codependency thing that most healers have. Ivy says it's a great course. I need to take it on myself. I do, that's one of those courses that it's always a good idea to refresh yourself. Lynn says, I have fostered the dogs, right? And I do that too. I always adopt the most unadoptable pets. Marissa says, it helped me with my muggle work and spiritual business. It was huge. Thank you. Marissa says, plus there's all this stuff from traditions that I had to sort out, right? I know that. Ivy says, busted. I do my healing for free, which is weird because I am a stickler when it comes to charging for everything else, including tarot. So why are you preventing others from learning how to heal themselves? Wouldn't it be more, it's like giving a man a fish or teaching a man how to fish, right? Freya says, until that shift is made, the block continues. It's very true. Pamela says, I've stopped the freebies. Marissa says, they can go online and learn about traditional shamanism. Mario says, my finances are tight, but I am not suffering. I find a way to get my needs met like new decks, just passing it on. Freya says, it took me a long time to put a monetary value on my time. It opened things up a lot. It does, doesn't it? Lynn says, yep, that has happened with the charging what I'm worth and helping people who have little money, but I've gotten over that, right? That's not, and you know what? That's not your problem anymore. It's not your problem anymore. You're on a path to fixing that. You're fixing it on generational level, You're on a path to healing that, and you can't do that if you keep going back to those old patterns. Ibu says, you are absolutely right. People, probably some underlying control issues and saver complex going on here with me. Yep. Could be. And that's something we all kind of have to face within ourselves. Absolutely. Okay, so who's ready to talk about the path of the healer to six and seven figure business, right? Who's ready to talk about that? Because that's exciting. Now, as a healer, the most profitable spiritual business path that you could take is to create and teach other people your own healing methods to empower people to heal themselves and others. Sounds simple, doesn't it? So basically, you are being called to pass on your healing knowledge to help other people heal themselves. So you might work with people one-on-one for a little bit of time. And I recommend that you do that for at least 3 years before you start teaching it. Because if you're not educated on some of the things that can go wrong or troubleshooting, if you can't troubleshoot something, and if you haven't done something in your own life enough to feel confident and experienced with, then you're not ready to teach others. But, after about 3 years of doing one-on-one healing work with people, then I would say it's time, especially if you're doing it full time, then I would say it's absolutely time to start creating your own healing method and to start teaching it to other people, your own tradition. Marissa, I'm looking at you. So this is where your path to 6 and 7 figures is really going to be. So you can do one-on-one, but the reality is that you have a limited amount of time, and one-on-one, you have a cap on how much money you can make. So you have a one-on-one session with someone, you charge $200. That's the $200 for that 1 hour. That's the most you'll ever be able to make out of that 1 hour that you spent with that one person. Now, you can still do one-on-one with people. You can still charge higher premium prices for that. That's why people like me, can charge $400 for an hour, because I don't work with a lot of people one-on-one. And when people do want to work with me one-on-one, it has to be a good match. And part of that is a buffer with prices. And also, I know that I can make more in that hour creating a passive income product than I could ever make. And I can help more people with one passive income product than I could ever help with a lifetime of working one-on-one with people. Does that make sense? So you'll be able to help far more people than you could ever possibly imagine if you shift out of that one-on-one or start, trying to shift out of that one-on-one. Now, if you haven't quite gotten there yet, this is like your 3 to 5 year plan, right? So year 1, establish your business. Year 2, focus on maxing out your one-on-one sessions. Year 3, start creating your passive income products and start shifting out of one-on-one. Year 4 and 5, start working more at a premium price level, selling 5, 10, 20, 50K packages, and then, doing more of like a membership site or something like that, where you can help hundreds, possibly even thousands or even millions of people versus just a couple people a couple times a day, right? So that's how you're going to take your business to the global level. That's how you're going to do it. That's how you're going to get to 6 and 7 figures. Mario says, ready. Lynn says, yes, please. Marissa says, having paying session clients helped me reinforce boundaries because I didn't have as much time for free stuff. That's a good part of it too. And when people pay you for your time and they're paying premium prices, they are more likely to follow through because there's a large amount of money on the line if they don't, right? So there is a direct correlation to how much someone pays for something and their level of follow through. Freya says, you have to know it to show it, right? Freya says, oh, and accountability is also something with that price point. People need to know that they are going to be accountable to themselves. Exactly. Absolutely. Exactly. Does anybody have, I'm going to open up this time now for any Q&A or any comments or anything you'd like to say. So if you would like to say something, let me know how this training helped you today. What is the one thing that you got most out of today and that you're really walking away with and you're going to go forward into this next new year and really try to work on with yourself? Let me know if you have any questions or things that you would like to discuss about the healer. Lynn says, that's why I'm working on an online course now, having a mind block on price though. Go for a no-brainer. I would always rather see you undersell yourself and confidently than try to oversell yourself and not sell it. So think back to number one, the most you've ever paid for something. That's a good indication of what you are aligned with. So if you've only ever paid, a couple $100s for something, you're probably only aligned to charge a couple $100s for something, right? So that's a good place to look. Another place to look is like, look at all of the stuff you've ever bought and then tally that up and see how much you've spent over the course of the lifetime of your business, right? That's like your highest high. So your lowest low is like how much, the most you've ever paid for one thing in one transaction. And your highest high is the most you've ever paid in a lifetime of all of your transactions for business related content and courses and coaching and things like that. Oh, Freya says, I jumped ahead. You're just psychic, Freya. And I've known you for so long. We have a telepathic connection. Marissa says, reinforcing my boundaries as an energy leak issue, including passive income products. Love that. Love it. Pamela says, I've paid up to $3,500. So that's where you're most aligned, like for your coaching packages or your life group programs or your circles and things like that, because you've paid that out. You know that you can get that much. It's a mental thing. Mario says, the most important thing, I keep thinking that I need to become a healer before I can offer healing. But yeah, I practice it all the time. And it is missing from my business. And now that I am finishing my new business plan, it must be added. Excellent. Excellent. So I hope you enjoyed this training today. I hope you got a lot out of it, especially as we're talking about the healer archetype. If you are a healer, let me know in the comments below. And guys, I will see you in the next video. In the next video, we're going to be talking about the warrior. So I'm really excited to talk about that. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope you guys have an even better week, and I'll see you next time.